everyone, in today's video I'll be showing you how I drew this eagle owl using fine liners. So I've got my fine liners and my sketchbook, and I just started working with a graphite pencil, HB, a regular graphite pencil, and I just started drawing in the outlines and the basic shape of all the feathers and placement of everything for this eagle owl. I am using a royalty free reference photo for this one, and I'm just basically looking at the reference photo and drawing in the outlines and getting the proportions right for the eagle owl. It's very important to get your proportions right when you're working with the pencil, so that when you start working with the fine liners, you get the final image will look good, because you would have all that all the proportions accurate. So now I went in with a fine liner and I started adding in the details for the feathers. Now the feathers, I didn't include the details to each individual feather. I only basically placed the different feathers, or where the feathers change shape or direction or patterns. I just included that on the initial sketch of this eagle owl, and then I started adding details as I went about drawing this eagle owl, and not initially I didn't pay attention to the details of each feather, just where they're located and where the different feathers appear and their position. So now I started adding in more details, and also adding in some shadow areas and using my fine liners. So if you want a shadow area, add more smaller strokes and add them closer together, you get more shadow areas. And then if you want areas where you just want to keep it light, keep it minimum strokes and keep them spaced out, and that will give you a lighter area. So I just started working one area, and then I move around from section to section, and I started adding in all those different shaped feathers, and also the different patterns on the feathers. Now this eagle owl has got a variety of different feathers and types of feathers, as well as the shape and pattern on the feathers. So I didn't, I looked at all of that when I did the initial drawing, but I didn't include the details on each feather. I did that now when I was working with the fine liners. So at this point you can see I'm starting to add the patterns on the feathers that are on the front of the bird, and then I started working on the feathers that are on the wings for the bird. So this is something you will do, or you can do, you can have a more refined sketch where you have all of that drawn in. But for me, I wanted to keep it simple and have just the basic outline of everything, and then just start adding in details as I went along, and really defining those as I went in with the fine liners. So I'm using different size fine liners for areas where I need to cover a bit more, basically cover larger areas or have thicker lines. I'm using a 0.5 or 0.7, and then when I'm using having areas where I need very fine strokes and lighter areas, I use a maybe 0.1 or even a 0.3. Yeah, so that's something just to bear in mind when you're working with your fine liners. And also I use the white jelly roll just to add the highlights in the eyes. And now I'm just going in and adding some details to the feathers, and adding some of those patterns for the feathers, as well as working on the feet and the claws as well. I want to get those in, and I will be coming back and working on that area a little later. I'm adding a bit of shadow to the eyes as well. Remember, the eyes have a bit of shadow cast from the top of the eyes, so you will have a bit of shadow there. Now I'm using a very fine, I think this is a 0.1 if I'm not mistaken, and I'm using that just to add some really light line work on the areas where I want it to still be light, but have very delicate lines, and not have too bold strokes going on. So I'm just using that to cover over all the different feathers, but I'm keeping my mind, or paying attention to the direction that I'm drawing the strokes in, just so that it matches with the shape and the direction that the feathers are laying in. So always keep that in mind when you are doing your line work, or when you are drawing in the patterns. So you can see at this point that the direction of the feathers changed, or the pattern of the feathers changed at the lower area of the wing, and that's where I am now adding more details, but using a finer fine liner, just so that I can get some really fine lines there. Because there isn't a solid color here, there's more of a pattern on the wings, and I want to show that with the fine liner that has less pigment, or it has a smaller nib, so it's not going to have a lot of broad strokes. Then I just started adding a bit of details to the platform that the bird is standing on, and I just added some strokes just to enhance the shadows and some of the details of that wood grain for that platform. And then I just waited for everything must be completely dry, and I erased everything out, and there I have the final piece. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Till the next one, bye.